Alright, welcome to my website, socialstudiesgames.us. Check it out, all kinds of resources. Today I'm going to show you a game that we created, a study review game in social studies using Risk. You can get the old school Risk board game at basically any yard sale. You probably got it laying around in the attic at home. Or you can buy a new version, it's probably about 20 bucks or so. And you don't even necessarily need to do that. You know, if basically all you get that you really need from the Risk board is going to be the pieces and the board. And really, you can print off your own map using any color printer and then just put cardboard behind it and make it a pretty decent and probably more historically accurate board. The only problem is, if you do that, you're not going to have the pieces. And that's going to be a hard thing to make up on your own because there's a lot of pieces. And I mean, you could create your own, it'll be a little bit more difficult. If that's something you want to do, I think you would be best suited to just spend the money and save the time, just buy a Risk. Buy an old one, probably get it on eBay, really cheap. The next thing you're going to need are game cards. You can see I've got these game cards. Multiple choice is probably the best for students if you want them to do this on their own. The best thing about this game is you can just turn the students loose and they can do this on their own. As long as it's a multiple choice question and you just simply on the back write the correct letter. You can see right there the answer to that question would have been C. Yeah, there's going to be times where kids would cheat, but that's just the part of games growing up, is people trying to manipulate the system. Another thing about these cards is that you do not want to print them off on paper. If you print them off on paper, one, they're going to get crumbled up, they're going to get lost, and kids just will not appreciate them as much. If you print them on cardstock, the students, there's just a cachet to having cardstock, which makes it feel like this is a actual game card. It's part of the official game, and the students will treat it completely different. And you're thinking, well, why is that? Well, that's just the mind of a middle school student. It just will feel better in their hands, and they will not rip it up. They will not crumble it up. They'll be a little more cautious and careful with it. Now, of course, they're not going to be perfect, but I'm telling you, if you print it off on cardstock, your questions will last for years. And you'll never have to print these questions off again, and year after year you'll be able to use the same things over and over. If you print them off on paper, you're going to be printing these things off every 3 or 4 weeks. So print them off on cardstock the first time, and then you're good to go. All right, how does the game work? All right, we've got 3 basic pieces. We've done this game down because, once again, we're dealing with middle schoolers, and we don't have time to deal with the complexities of Risk. We really just want to know the material we're studying. We're focused on the content. We're not necessarily focused on battle strategy, even though that will come into play. We've got the little infantryman. He gets to roll a 6-sided die. We've got the cavalryman, or the horse, 12-sided. And then the cannon gets to roll the 20-sided die. Obviously, they just go into head-to-head battles. So, for example, the infantryman is in a battle with the cavalry guy, and it's a head-to-head battle. So the best the infantry guy can roll is a 6, and the best the cavalry guy can roll is 12. More often than not, statistically, the horse is more powerful. But, you know, it is possible for the little guy to beat the horse, and it's even possible for the little guy to beat the cannon if the cannon rolls a bad roll. So it's just basic statistics if you want to work that into a concept you're teaching your students. But there it is. That's the basics. The game really works out as just a one-on-one battle, and you go until you kill everyone else and you conquer the world. And in all of my years of playing this game, since we've created it, I do not think anyone's ever won, anyone's ever finished. Often what's going to happen is, well, let me explain the rules and I'll tell you how it plays out. But the students, even though no one will win, will continue to like to play this game. All right, so here's how it basically works. You ask a question. If the student gets the question right, the student has 3 choices: move, place, or upgrade. If they get a question right, they get to move, place, or upgrade. If they are wrong, then it moves on to the next team. So, for example, let's start with upgrade. If I got a little guy over here in the Ukraine, and I get a question right, I can upgrade the little guy, take him off the board, and then put a horse in the spot. I have upgraded. This is probably what students will do for the first half of the game nonstop until they can no longer upgrade. They will upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. And you can use that if you're teaching World War I kind of to connect to militarism. It's kind of just a natural reaction. The students understand the game. They understand they want the 20-sided die. They understand that people are going to be hesitant. All of them are hesitant to jump into war. And what they will do is upgrade. And they will build up their armies to an insane level. Usually for the first 5 minutes of the game, even for the first, if you play this game over the course of a couple days, the first day that you may only have a couple battles because people are just building and building and building. A little proliferation of cannons is what will happen. Upgrade, you will see a lot of. The next is the place, which goes one-on-one with the upgrade. What they will do first. And usually what I do is I will start, each person gets 3 pieces. They get one little guy, they get one horse, and they get one cannon. When they get their first question right, they turn that into a cannon. And then when they get the second question right, they turn the little guy into a horse. And then they get the third question right, and then they turn the horse into a cannon. After that, they can't upgrade it anymore. And what they begin to do is place. So if they get their next question right, in any territory that they own, they can place a piece. And then you can assume what they're going to do next. They upgrade that guy to a horse. And so that leads to this kind of this buildup, this militarism, which turns eventually when there is nowhere else to place your pieces, that's when you finally have your battles. And it plays out like this every single time. Even though if the students were a little more crafty, they would attack first with their bigger pieces and try to eliminate people. But they really just want to play the game at first, and for the most part. No one really thinks about winning. They just want to look good. And that's a whole other piece you can talk about with the students. If you analyze the way that they play this game, it's very interesting. The last thing you can do is move, and that's where you get your battle. So if I get a question right, and I'm in the Ukraine with my cannon, I can then attack Afghanistan if there's a peace in Afghanistan. Otherwise, I've now conquered that place, and it's mine, and I can put pieces in that location. You can really change these rules however you want, and a lot of my students are constantly changing the rules and coming up with their own ideas to make it better. Those are just the very basic ways that we play Risk in Mr. D's social studies game. You can add all kinds of features to it, but really it's just simple. Get a question correctly, you can move, place, or upgrade. Very simple, everyone gets it, students learn the first day, and that's it. It's a real quick learning curve. Then after that, then they start to develop strategy. You're going to see all kinds of alliances build between each other. A lot of sneaky stuff. People will backstab and then go back and forth and form new alliances. It's interesting to see how it plays out. The one thing you want to keep track of, the beauty of this game is that because you have the questions, you can work with other students in the room one-on-one. You can do other things while you have a group of students playing the Risk. Now, you can do a whole class Risk where you're kind of the sage on the stage and you lead the show. And that works pretty well because they really buy in when you lead it. And I would recommend that the first time you try this game out, you lead it. You run the show, show them how it works, get them involved, antagonize them at times, trick them at times. Once you get them to buy in the first time, then you're good to go to let them loose. Once you've let them loose, you're pretty good, but you want to keep your eye on them because what will happen occasionally is after answering so many questions, they'll just start making their own rules. And one of the first rules that they will make up is they're going to ignore the questions and they'll just start putting pieces. So you got to make sure you stay on top of them when it comes to the questions. But you really don't have to keep a close eye, just keep reminding. You'll see, obviously, if they're answering questions or not, because you hear it out loud. I like to have them read the question out loud so that everyone hears the question and so people are hearing the right answers over and over and over. I also like for them to leave the card on the board. You're going to have students picking the card up, moving the card around, accusing each other of looking at the answer on the back of the card. And then when they read it, pull it up. A lot of times they don't read it out loud. Whoever's question it is, that student will read the question out loud. There is not a question reader because question reader usually turns into a problem. So there's the basics of our Risk game. You can modify it however you would like. I've got other games and little things that we do, but this is the simplest. And usually when you're teaching middle school or even 9th grade, the rule really is it's simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't make a complicated game. So we took Risk, we dumbed it down, and it's very successful. Kids really like it. They really enjoy it. Just got to keep a watchful eye on, make sure that they're doing the review questions. And sometimes it's fun to analyze and get inside their brain and see what they're thinking. All right, thanks for checking out the website, socialstudiesgames.us. Got a lot of North Carolina social studies, U.S. history, world history, and civics and economics on the site. If you have any questions, send me an email, mrd12eagles@gmail.com, or the old Twitter thing, @MRDNCSS. It's @MRDNCSS. Thanks for watching, guys.